I am Lieutenant Commander Jason Neiman, the Public Information Officer and working from the Joint Information Center for this response. Thank you for attending. Please take a moment to silence all mobile devices. Today we'll be providing an update on the St. Simon Sound incident, and with us today is Chris Graff of Gallagher Marine Systems, Incident Commander, Commander Norm Witt, Federal On-Scene Coordinator, John Maddox, State On-Scene Coordinator, Cameron Kerr, Gallagher Marine Systems, and Jules Martina from Don John Smith. We'll begin today with a brief statement from Chris Graff, and we'll have some time for some questions afterwards. We'll open the floor. Because of ongoing operations, we'll have approximately 15 minutes for your questions. I ask that you limit yourself initially to one question and one follow-up. That'll allow time for all your colleagues to have time for their questions. Following the media briefing, we'll be conducting a brief walk through the incident command post. And myself and the rest of the Joint Information Center staff will be available if there are any questions or you need amplifying information after the press conference is complete. If you did not receive a press kit, those will be provided at the end as well. All right. Thank you. Mr. Chris Graff.
Good day, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate everyone taking the time out to help us provide information out to the public of what we got going on in this incident. Unified Command was developed on September 8th. As you well know, there was the Golden Ray it rolled over onto its side at the early morning hours. We formed and mobilized. Gallagher Marine System is the contracted responsible party representative. We're an incident management team nationally and internationally. We have teams all over the country. We represent thousands of ships as well as pipeline companies and facilities. So we mobilized and came here. I formed part of the Unified Command with the federal and state representatives as the incident commander on behalf of the responsible party. Those early morning hours were all about search and rescue, as you know. At the same time, we were mobilizing assets to potentially mitigate any pollution threat. It's very important to us to thank the state of Georgia and all the help they provided, the Federal On-Scene Coordinator, Commander Witt, and the Coast Guard, as well as all the federal, state, and local agencies that have helped us in this response. This is a very highly complex and challenging response, as you probably well know. The vessel's on its side, that's full of cargo, that has cars. It has potential threats to the environment with oil and other pollutants. And it started with a rescue, which was a fantastic and a wonderful story and success story. At the same time, we know that there's still impacts to this community and to the environment. So we want to thank you for your patience, all of you. When we got together that morning, we developed some priorities. And those priorities were provide for the safety of the responders and the public. And we've been focused on that since that moment. You know, the next day when the crew was removed, that was our first goal right there, get them safely out. And that was a success story, and they were safely removed, all of the people, which is fantastic. We did have some oil removed or released to the environment. Our next priority was to mitigate that and to limit that. So our dive crews from Don John Smith, the salvage company, started plugging the vents for the fuel tanks. So that was completed. But with that done, there's still been releases to the environment, and we've been responding to those. So let me talk about what our other priorities were. Besides the safety of the responders and the public, our other priority was protecting the environment. And we've done that several ways, and I'll talk about those. We also want to maintain commerce, and that was one of our big goals early on. So I'm going to tell you about what we've done so far after September 8th with the impacts. We've been doing continuous surveys around the Sound with professionals made up of state, federal, and responsible party representatives. We've identified shoreline impacts near Quarantine Island, Lanier Island, Bird Island, and the confluence of Back, McKay, and Frederica rivers, with varying degrees of oil and sheen in the marshes. Cleanup teams have removed sand and debris from the Brunswick Point and established protected booming around sensitive site areas. The main focus of the most environmentally sensitive area the booming was done was Bird Island. Personnel and equipment have been strategically located throughout the Sound. We have nearly 30,000 feet of boom, dozens, I think it's near 70 vessels, fast response vessels, as well as larger oil spill removal vessels in the area. The top priorities beyond the, besides the safety again, how we've been meeting that is we've been doing ongoing air monitoring and water quality sampling throughout the Sound and around the vessel. As I said, this is complex, so the vessel's on its side. To remove the environmental threat, which is the pollutants that are on the vessel, it's a difficult job. People are lowering down several stories into the vessel. We're doing skimming on the vessel, skimming in the engine room. The first access is where the crew was rescued. So that ongoing skimming is still going to this day. There also is lightering. Lightering is a process where we remove fuel from the fuel tanks. To this time, there's a total of 24 tanks that they identified. They removed fuel from 2 of those tanks. And I believe the number is 15,500 gallons of fuel has been transferred already. And I caution, just the numbers that I give you, that's a moving target. Because they're ongoing. They'll change. So, as far as other things in the environment, I have some subject matter experts. Cameron Kerr is here from the field teams. He's been heading up the environmental and operational section. And then we have people from Don John Smith. Don John Smith is a salvage operation. They've been doing nonstop surveys of the vessel in the surrounding sea bottom. They're doing access to the tanks and removing the fuel. They're also doing testing any movements of the vessel. And they're ultimately going to be in charge of removing the vessel from where it's at, salvage operation. We can't thank the local stakeholders as well enough. They've been helping Cameron and his team identify, with their local knowledge, identify areas of potential impact. And that we need to keep that partnership going for us. So as of today, what we're doing is continuing skimming operations, continue lightering operations, continue surveying and data collection so that they can do further efforts in salvaging this vessel. And then we're going to continue to do our shoreline and water surveying. And if any oil is detected, we'll respond to it. That's sort of what I had prepared for you. I'm ready to take any questions you may have. And so is the rest of the Unified Command.
If you could just say your name and then your affiliate.
Yes, absolutely. Loretta Anklam with Action News Jax. Could you give us a timeline? You mentioned fuel has been removed from the tanks. Could you give us a timeline of when all the fuel will be removed, if you have that?
That's a great question, and I expected people would want to know timelines. The problem with this is it's a very complex, you can't access all the tanks easily. So the salvage operation is first hit the initial tanks that they could get to in the engine room, and then they'll move. There's approximately 12 tanks in the engine room, and there's 12 additional tanks, fuel tanks, outside of the engine room. To give you an actual timeline, it would be inappropriate. I wouldn't know that exactly yet. But what we'll do is we'll keep you informed as we move the progress as we go forward.
I have one follow-up,
Yeah.
real quick. After that is done, whenever the fuel is removed, what's the next step?
Okay, that's a good question as well. First, we're really concerned about the environment and the potential impact. So our first priority is getting the heavy fuel oil off. The heavy fuel oils in the tanks that run the ships. So then there's other types of fuel on board the ship. We'll get those fuels off. Once that's done, they can then start surveying into the cargo hold. can't access the cargo hold at this time. The environment's not safe, they don't want to open it up and venting. So what they'll do is wait till we get the fuel off, the potential environmental threat, and then they'll be able to do a complete survey and data collection of what's happening in the cargo hold. Then they'll have a better idea of what the best plan forward is on how to remove this vessel. Does that answer that question?
Larry Hobbs, Brunswick News. With air and water quality testing, have y'all detected any significant damage to the marsh and outlying environment?
That's a good question. You know, I think for me, the best person for that is, because I haven't been out and looking at any of that data, maybe the state, do you think, John?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is John Maddox. I'm with the Georgia Environmental Protection Division of the Department of Natural Resources. Water quality sampling has been conducted and is currently ongoing throughout St. Simon Sound. All of the analytical data that we've received to date shows no identifications, no detections of contaminants identified with the golden ratio.
Is there any concern about long term?
We're going to continue to monitor that until we're comfortable that no potential for risk exists, and we'll certainly update the public should detections come to light.
And I'll just follow up a little bit on that. As I pointed out, our highest priority is safety, not only of our responders, but the public. So that's why we initially started a complete air monitoring program as well. The vessel is located very close to communities, we realize that. We're very concerned to maintain it and continually have that monitoring done, not only for the community, but also we have responsible people. We have hundreds of people out there in this response, and we need to protect them as well.
In the back.
Hi, I'm Kate Filling with Fox 28. When you're doing that fuel removal and the transfer, is there any risk of a spill during that? And if so, is there any mitigation efforts that are kind of booming around the vessel, things like that would stop?
It's a great question. The booming around the vessel has been talked about a lot, and I can touch on that briefly if you'd like. The currents around this vessel and the movement of the water around it is incredibly strong. We've tried boom several times around this vessel that we would call that containment boom. It is not proven to be efficient. One, the currents are too strong in the oil. If it is inside it, we release. Two, it's tearing the boom apart. And also three, most importantly, we're putting a lot of people at risk of doing that. So what we did early on is we decided that we knew that would be a challenge for us, and we mobilized an incredible amount of resources, over 70 boats and 350 people and 30,000 feet of boom. It's because we know we have to implement additional different strategies as opposed to standard strategies that might have worked inside of a bay. And to go to your next question is lightering. So the lightering operation itself is a fairly standard operation, and there's best management practices. Don John Smith's done this numerous times. And I wouldn't consider that there's no threat or no risk, but I think it's minimal. Does that answer your question? Yes, ma'am.
Brittany Muller with Channel 4 News for Jax. 2 of the tanks have been removed. Are you concerned that the other tanks are filled with fuel? Do we know that for a fact?
Yes, we have actually we've gotten readings from the computers on board the ship. We have a great idea of what amounts of fuel is in each tank. And then our objective is to remove all those fuels if we can safely. So yes, we do know what fuel is supposed to be in each tank. The 2 that the tanks aren't removed, it's the fuel from the tanks, just to clarify.
And a follow-up to that, I know you haven't opened the cargo area, but is the fuel inside of the cars a concern?
Yeah, all pollutants are a concern. The cars themselves, as you know, well, or you may not know, there was a fire on board as well. The amount of damage from the fire is unknown until we can access the area. They plan on doing several techniques, and I don't know if you would like to speak to it, but they're going to, once they can, start drill holes into the deck, put surveys, systems down, not only test the water inside the cargo area, but also mainly test the air also, and do a sonar picture. Another interesting piece is that they've mobilized a team down to Chile, South America. It's a sister ship to this vessel, and they're getting a great idea of all the particulars of the vessel. Because everything's on its side, remember, so it's a lot different picture.
And do you have a name to that vessel that's down in Chile?
I could get that to you. I did see it this morning, I just don't have it. Yes, sir.
Russ, CBS Fox Jacksonville. Is there any update as to where the investigation is to what caused the accident in the first place? Is there anything to add or update where that is at this point?
I mean, I know people are probably concerned with that, and I think we brought it back at other press conferences. When we formed this unified command, we have nothing to do with the investigation. We focus on our goals, a rapid, aggressive, and a well-coordinated response to any pollution spill, and work effectively, efficiently, and safely. The investigation part is outside of this unified command. Does that answer it? Yes,
I
ma'am.
have another question. You mentioned maintaining commerce is a big component of this. Could you speak to whether marine traffic is being impacted as we speak? And if so, what do vessels coming in and out of Port of Brunswick need to do to safely navigate it past the Golden Ray?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm going to defer that to the Coast Guard as the appropriate person to answer.
Thank you for the question. So a few things regarding that. First of all, for the safety of the responders and the public, we have a 150-yard safety zone immediately around the vessel. And really that's, again, primarily for the safety of the responders and the public. No one is allowed inside of that 150-yard perimeter, basically, without authorization. For the larger deep draft commercial vessels, we've instituted a temporary regulated navigation area, and there's some restrictions on vessel traffic, speed restriction, we're requiring a tug assistance, one-way traffic, and we're doing everything we can to deconflict the commercial traffic with the work being done on site to make sure there's no safety concerns. So we are moving traffic. I wouldn't be accurate to say there have been no delays, but we're doing everything we can to minimize those delays. Does that answer your question?
I have a follow-up, Commander.
Absolutely.
I know that at the beginning of this incident, vessels weren't allowed in and out for some time. Now they are, but since then, have you had to deny entry to any vessels?
No, we have not denied entry to any vessels, and really I think earlier your question was also the process. The process is pretty much the same. All foreign vessel arrivals have to file a notice of arrival. That's still, and we're working with port partners, the pilots, the Port Authority, stakeholders to, again, try to deconflict that schedule on a daily basis, really. Thank you.
We have time for one more question.
I've talked to a couple of boat captains who are kind of nervous a little bit about their economic impact, whether they're fishermen or strippers or things of that nature. And they said the water samples have been coming back good. So is that kind of an indication that that's not affecting them at this point, or is there any kind of update to how this might have impacted them at this point?
So I'll give you my answer to that, and then I'll open it up to anybody else. We're trying to push out all information that we have on a website. We can get that for you. We're asking anybody to report any. There's a claims line that we're asking folks to use, and we're publicizing on the website. There's a reporting number for if you see any oil impacts. We're asking folks to please report that, and we'll investigate that. So we're doing everything we can to push that information out, and including there's contact information. So I would ask the public, I would ask any industry sectors, if you have concerns, please contact us, and we'll do everything we can to address those. I don't know if anybody's got anything you want to add to that.
Thank you, ladies.